What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. I'm Chris Mangano. I'm your host, along with Pierre. And today I'm bringing you my panic players. I do this every week. These are players, big-time players. We're supposed to be the cornerstone of your fantasy team. I'm talking about players like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Lamar Jackson, JuJu Smith-Schuster, Tyler Higbee, among others. These are guys who are 90% or more rostered in Yahoo leagues. And like I said, these were the guys you were counting on week in and week out to carry your team. And I'm here to let you know, should you be concerned? Should you be panicking? And what should you do with these guys going forward? Now, before we get into that, if you're new to the channel or if you've been here before but you have yet to hit the subscribe button, you need to do that right now. And make sure you click that bell notification because Pierre and I bring you content every single day to help you get an edge over your league mates, win your league, crush your league, get all the bragging rights, get the money if you play for money, get the belt if you play for belts. So hit that subscribe button right now. And don't forget, if there's a player that I don't mention that you are panicked about, drop a comment below. Let me know who it is, and I'll give you my thoughts on that player. But let's jump right into it, and let's start with the biggest name. I mean, maybe not the biggest name. Lamar Jackson might be a bigger name. I'm going to get to him later, so stick around. Don't leave yet because I'm going to get to him. But this is definitely the biggest name as far as non-quarterbacks go, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back of the Kansas City Chiefs. He was like a consensus first-round pick. After week one, it looked like you hit it out of the park. You hit the home run. You nailed it. And it hasn't been the case since, right? He just had a great matchup here in week 5, completely disappointed. He did have a touchdown taken off the board because of penalty, but he's had 3 games with under 15 fantasy points this year. Not what you're looking for in a first-rounder. Only 1 touchdown. The good news here is he's handling 80% of the running back touches, and he has a 12% target share. The only other running back with those numbers so far, Ezekiel Elliott. So I'm not in full-fledged panic mode yet. I do like him going forward still. He's one of my best buy lows. Now, he does have a couple tough matchups coming up here over the next 2 weeks. After that, his schedule gets much easier. So if you have him, just ride through the next 2 weeks. Hopefully he finds the end zone. Then his schedule lightens up. If you don't have him, he's one of my favorite buy lows. Go out and try to buy low either this week or next week, or even the week after, or maybe when he gets into his buy because his value may still be relatively low. But so I'm not in full-fledged panic mode about Helaire just yet. Definitely got to keep your eye on. I do think better days are still ahead. Let's stick with running backs, and let's go with another rookie running back. This was another guy that people thought were going to win leagues, especially after Marlon Mack went down. Top 10 every week, don't worry about it. And that hasn't been the case, and that's Jonathan Taylor, right? Has not been putting up top 10 numbers. Hasn't even been getting like top 10 volume. That's the real concern here. That's the real thing that should have you panicking is his usage in this offense. Over the last 3 games, 13 carries, 17 carries, and only 12 carries last week. He did have that long touchdown, which saved his day, and only 5 targets over those 3 games. So, I know that first week when Marlon Mack went down, he got like 6 targets, even though Nyheim Hines had like 1,000 targets. He still got 6. And everybody was like, he's going to get work in the passing game. He's going to get all the carries. It's going to be great, and it hasn't been that way. I think at this point you just got to view him as a matchup dependent RB2, right? You can't sit there and just lock him in as a top 10 no-brainer every week because A, he's not getting the volume, and B, they're not running a lot of plays. They're playing really slow. Their goal is just to lean on that defense, win these low-scoring, boring games, hide the offense a little bit. So he's just not getting those opportunities. And to be honest, he hasn't. I'm not an eye test guy. I'm not a tape guy, but he hasn't looked like anything really special running the ball so far. He hasn't been bad. I'm not saying he's been bad, but he hasn't looked like special. He hasn't been, making way more out of plays than what he's gotten. So, again, I'm viewing him as an RB2, which is fine. Look, it's fine. There's not a lot of guys getting the volume he's getting, and he's always got a touchdown upside. Certainly in certain matchups, you're gonna feel much better about him. But yeah, can't view him as more as an RB2 right now. So not really panicked about him, but you gotta like cool it with the top 10 rest of the season upside. And then another guy I am panicked about, and that's David Johnson, another running back. Week 1 looked like, okay, this is the return of David Johnson. Well, this offense we know has been terrible since. They got rid of Bill O'Brien. The offense did look better in week 5. The good news for David Johnson is the volume is there, right? He's getting the work. He's getting the touches. The results just haven't been there. And I don't know if they're going to be there. I think you just got to, kind of like Jonathan Taylor, you got to view David Johnson as an RB2. I don't think you can really bench him because, again, there's not a lot of guys getting, 15 to 20 touches every week at the running back position. Certainly there's going to be matchups where you're going to feel better about him. There's going to be matchups where you're going to be scared to play him. Kind of like Jonathan Taylor, matchup dependent, RB2 there. Not ready to quite bench him yet, but definitely concerned. Let's move on to some wide receivers. You got some big names here, and let's start out in Pittsburgh with JuJu Smith-Schuster. Man, Deontay Johnson's going off, Chase Claypool's going off, and JuJu is not going off, and I don't understand it. He's only had more than 6 targets in one game so far this year. Now, they've only played 4 games, but still, that's not what you're looking for. Like I said, he keeps taking a back seat to wide receivers like Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. He does have a really good upcoming schedule, but he's just not getting the target share to be considered like a wide receiver 1, I think, anymore. I think you got to consider him as like a wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 3 until we see more usage from him. Obviously, you're not benching JuJu. I don't think so. I don't think you're not benching JuJu. I know he's coming off a horrible game. But like I said, I think you got to view him more as a wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 3. But certainly the panic is there. And if this continues, if the guys on the outside, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, continue to feast, and JuJu's not getting much in the slot, it's going to be definite panic time. Now let's go out to Washington. This guy's been great. I love this guy, of course, as a fan of the football team. That's Terry McLaurin. This is nothing against Terry McLaurin. The concern here is his quarterback play, because now we're looking at either Kyle Allen or Alex Smith. Neither one looked very good. I know Dwayne Haskins hasn't looked very good, but at least Dwayne Haskins was force-feeding him the ball, right? Kyle Allen in the first half targeted him only 3 times with 2 completions. Alex Smith only targeted him 4 times in the second half with only 1 completion. Whichever guy is out there, you got to be concerned. To put that in perspective, in 4 games, Dwayne Haskins targeted them 39 times. I mean, that's like 12 or like, what is that? I don't know. Almost 10 times a game, right? Almost 10 targets a game. He's not going to get that kind of volume with Allen or Smith. They will check it down. They will take the safer throws. They're not going to chuck it down to McLaurin. It's going to be a headache. Obviously, again, you can't bench him just yet. You still got to start him, but certainly the panic meter is raising. And if this week he has another dud and it doesn't look like Allen or Smith can get him the ball, then it's going to be real time to panic. And one more wide receiver. This guy was drafted as a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Everybody's really excited about this guy coming into the season, and that is DJ Chark out there in Jacksonville. And what's frustrating about this is that Minshew has played well. They're putting points on the board. He's throwing touchdowns. It's just not happening for Chark. Obviously, with Chenault kind of breaking out and developing as a rookie, and even the usage of Keelan Cole, that's really hurt him. He's had 4 or less targets in 3 of the 4 games he's played. 4 targets, that's not even wide receiver 3 numbers, right? That's waiver wire level. So that's really concerning. He left week 5 late in the game with an injury. I haven't heard anything. I don't think it's anything serious, but he has already missed 1 game this week. Certainly not a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. I think you have to view him more as a wide receiver 4, and I could definitely make a case for benching him in the right matchups. If they're not going against, like a Seattle or an Atlanta or one of those terrible pass defenses, I think you could make a case for benching DJ Chark right now. So certainly panic levels are very high there. Let's go out. Let's talk about a tight end. And man, this is another guy. You drafted this guy as the 5th or 6th tight end overall. He had a monster end to the season last year. Pierre and I talked about it a few times in the offseason about, hey, Gerald Everett was the guy before Gerald Everett got hurt, but it still looked like Higbee was going to be the guy. But it looks like now it is actually going to be Gerald Everett, as Gerald Everett looks healthy. He's starting to run more routes than Tyler Higbee, starting to have more snaps. And in this last game, he out-targeted Higbee 4-2. Higbee had that one great game against Philadelphia where he caught 3 touchdowns. He hasn't done anything since. I definitely don't think you can start Tyler Higbee anymore. You cannot start Tyler Higbee anymore, especially if Gerald Everett is going to continue to take work away from him. I don't know if you can quite drop him yet because, again, who are you dropping him for at tight end? There's not a lot there, but I think you got to bench Higbee at this point. Go play the waiver wire. Try to find somebody like Jimmy Graham off waivers, or maybe even Darren Fells out there in Houston, who Pierre talked about in the waiver wire tight end video, which you should go watch if you're worried about Higbee or if you have Higbee. But I definitely think panic meter here is at the max. You cannot start Tyler Higbee anymore. Not until further notice, until he either surpasses Gerald Everett or, not that I ever want somebody to get hurt, but if Gerald Everett were to miss games, then you could feel pretty good about Tyler Higbee again. But until then, he's on your bench. Now let's finish with a couple quarterbacks. And, of course, the guy I promised you I would talk about, Lamar Jackson. I get it. You can't bench Lamar Jackson. But here's the thing. You drafted Lamar Jackson in the 1st or 2nd round, and he is absolutely killing you, whether you want to admit it or not. Right? I haven't really heard a lot of talk about the fact that Lamar Jackson is killing your team, but he's killing your team. He's currently the QB 11, which isn't awful, but not worth a 1st or 2nd round pick, that's for sure. And considering guys that were picked after him have been just destroying it, guys like Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, these weren't even guys that you had to pick. These were middle round quarterbacks that have just been crushing it. Even Justin Herbert, who you got off waiver wires. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who you can get off waiver wires. These guys have been crushing it, giving you big games. Lamar Jackson has not. He's scored below 18 points in 3 of the 5 games. And the problem here is, there's big-time regression happening in the passing game, right? He's not, and in the rushing game, really. He's not running for 100-plus yards every week and scoring touchdowns every week. So there's big-time regression on both fronts. But also, this Ravens defense is so good, and they're just throttling teams that he really doesn't have to do anything, right? They're in basically run out the clock mode in like the late third, early 4th quarters, and he's just handing the ball off, right, and not really having to do much. So as long as that continues, he's going to underperform. Again, I'm not saying don't start Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying drop Lamar Jackson, but you got to be worried. You got to be panicked. And, I mean, there may come a point here where I am saying, look, it's time to go stream quarterbacks that have a higher ceiling, because I talk about this a lot. In a 1 QB league, you're looking for ceiling, okay? You're not looking for a QB to get you 15, 16, 17 points, especially not a guy you drafted in the 1st round. You're looking for ceiling. And you can find these guys you can find ceiling in 1 QB leagues on the waiver wires a lot of times by playing the matchup. So don't bench him yet. Definitely be panicked about him, though. And maybe you just got to hope that somehow, this defense regresses and they start falling behind games and he's forced to do more, because right now he's not. And then the last guy I want to talk about, another quarterback, Matt Ryan. Oh, man, such a great year last year. First 2 weeks of the season, picked up right where he left off. It looked like, okay, here we go, top 5 Matt Ryan. And boy, has he stunk since. Can I say that word, stunk? Is that too harsh? He sucked since. 12 points, and 8 points over his last 3 games. 12, and 8. Like, you can find better than that off the waiver wire every single week. Even if you're not trying, you can find better than that off the waiver wire. Julio Jones being out has really, really hurt him. The matchups haven't been great. And I think right now you got to view Matt Ryan as a guy you can only play in those really, really, really good matchups, right? When he's playing a terrible pass defense like, Atlanta, Seattle, like I talked about. He can't play Atlanta. That's his own team, unfortunately. Seattle, Minnesota, whatever. Some of the really, really bad pass defenses, Jacksonville, you can feel good playing them. But in those tougher matchups, I think you got to bench them and you got to go to the waiver wire and you got to stream a QB, especially if you're in a 1 QB league. There's no reason you should be rolling out Matt Ryan every week to get you 12 or 8 points. That's just ridiculous. He's not that special that you have to keep playing him. right? If the matchup isn't good, bench them and go to the waiver wires and get somebody else. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Those are my panic players for week 6. Again, I'm just covering guys that you pretty much think you were going to rely on every single week. If there are other guys I didn't cover that you're panicked on, comment below, let me know, and I will get to them and I'll help you out with that. And once again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps us, really helps promote the channel, get us out there more, get us more views, get us more exposure. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.